Hi guys. We're back.
Hi.
We are excited for today's episode because it's about a business plan. And so, granted, we work on business plans together, but Jen's the numbers person here. And so when it comes down to like nitty gritty, Jen's a little bit more of an expert than me, but I bring ideas. So
Tons of great ideas.
anyway, so we're going to, just kind of go through the components of a business plan that you need as a small business. If you're wanting to be an entrepreneur, or maybe you've started a business, but you feel like you need a little bit more of a plan. Jen, why is it important to have a business plan?
Because it keeps you focused.
Mm-hmm.
It helps translate your idea to other people who might be able to help you, or you can pitch for support.
Yeah.
I mean, it summarizes what you're doing.
Yeah. Do you think that like a business plan, how far out should it be, I guess?
So when you're just starting out, I wouldn't focus more than 12 months.
Yeah, because businesses change so much in the first year.
They do. And it's okay to say, I want to start a business where I'm teaching kids to read and then I'm eventually going to start a school.
Yeah.
That's okay. But to try and build the plans, for 5 to 10 years, I wouldn't stress yourself out about that.
Yeah. All right, let's go through from the beginning. We have a list. We'll link the blog post here, but just wanted to add a little bit more color and kind of our own thoughts to this.
One thing, so we're going to walk through all the components of a professional business plan. Depending on what you're doing, you may not need all of the components.
Yeah, we have a great business plan template in the collective too.
Yeah.
Which I think we should call out. And it's a questionnaire and template. So you do the questionnaire and then you go over to the template and like fill it in. So it's like kind of a 1-page plan.
Yeah. It makes it very easy to fill out a business plan.
Yeah.
But there's a few elements, and I'll call it out as we go through this, that unless you're trying to, pitch for investment and things, you may not necessarily need it right away.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's more of like a very small business and it's more internal and also to like figure out like what your plans are, some of this isn't necessary.
Yeah.
All right, we'll start off with...
You're just going to rapid fire questions?
Yeah, absolutely. With an executive summary, which is kind of like a brief overview. Jen, how long should this be? It says, we wrote in here like it's a page or two. I think business plans, like we literally have a business plan on a page, which I think is better for small businesses. If you're looking to grow the business, then yes. And if depending on how complicated it is, depending on how many people you're going to need to hire, I think that's when they get longer, right?
I think it can be anywhere from 3 sentences to 2 pages.
Oh, 3 sentences. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, do you think some business plans are like a lot more intense though. Like,
yeah, but I think
like
at minimum,
page.
it's what do you offer?
Yeah.
Who are you helping and what does it do?
Yeah, that's fair.
3 sentences.
Yeah, I think that's true.
You know me. I live in a TLDR world.
Yeah, and I also think that sometimes business plans can feel very intimidating because you think of it as like a huge like 50-page deck and like unless you're building the next Facebook, I don't think you need something that intense.
You also don't. You could be building the next Facebook. You don't need to start with that right now.
That's
you just
true.
need to get started.
That's true. So what does the executive summary need to include?
So I think it's what the company, like a brief description.
Mm-hmm.
What's the objective of the company? And if you have a mission, but this is where even still people will get hung up on mission and vision sometimes.
Yeah.
What are you trying to do? Put simply, who are you helping?
Totally. It doesn't need to be cute.
And what does that do for people?
Yeah. I like that. Okay. So there's the executive summary. Market analysis is number 2.
Yeah. Well, and so one more thing on an executive summary. So we always say, for example, like the marketing greenhouse is for people that are looking to start, scale, or structure.
Yep.
I mean,
yeah, a marketing consultancy in service of people looking to start, scale, or structure.
Yeah.
It's also like allowed us to build in different ways and let the business unfold as it does, not like corner ourselves into something where
Right.
We're not sure if that's exactly what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Um, okay, market analysis.
So the market analysis, in particular for a small business, is really just who's in your competitive set.
Uh-huh.
And this isn't like, oh gosh, there are other marketing consultants out there. We probably shouldn't do this
Yeah,
idea.
totally.
Everyone does something similar, so don't let that hang you up. But who's within the competitive set, and then what are the market trends? So what that does is it helps you better understand where your business can succeed.
Hmm.
So for example, with the marketing greenhouse, we know of a handful of quote unquote competitors,
Hmm.
but we really focus on, we primarily work with women,
Hmm.
and specifically creative women that have started businesses and want that business support.
Yeah, I think like our kind
Those
of
are my
sweet
favorite.
spot is people who have built their business into something impressive, but
There's very smart people who don't necessarily have a business background,
yeah,
but they're ninjas in all the other
totally. They're like
departments.
complete hustlers. They've gotten
Yes.
themselves to a really good place, and they've gotten to the tipping point where it's gotten chaotic and they can't do everything themselves anymore. Like
Right.
they put in enough sweat equity and they're ready to invest outward.
Yes. Right.
Um, so yeah. Um, this is a market analysis, and this is also where I think a lot of people get caught up in Kyle's always like the TLAs, like the three-letter acronyms.
I was
Like
just gonna say I love a good SWOT
I was gonna say
analysis.
a SWOT, right? Like, and people are like, "What's a
Strengths,
SWOT?" And it's
weaknesses, opportunities, threats.
totally when we started this business, I didn't know what a SWOT was. I was like, "What is this?" Like, you're like, do a SWOT analysis. I'm like, I don't know how to do a SWOT.
Fly
Like,
swatter? What do we
right,
need?
right. But also, like, it was very intimidating, and like, I realized, like, oh, it's not this. You're literally just
No.
like,
Just another 4 box.
yeah, like looking at like
Yeah, it's
a
just a
company
framework.
site or whatever, and just kind of seeing like,
What's working, what's not working.
yeah, and then yeah, anyway, so things like that are not don't get intimidated by like these funny words that you see. Like usually they're not that difficult. Corporate people just love to make an acronym. All right, company description. What needs to be in your company description?
So this is something that I would definitely complete, because your company description, I mean, it's relatively self-explanatory, but the importance of it is that it will quickly become a blurb on your about page of your
Hmm.
website or your Instagram bio. But this should include any history, how it's structured, like Jesse and I are
Yeah.
co-founders. If you want to, we bring X years of experience within marketing,
Hmm.
some of your background information you'd want to include. You can include your location if you want to, but you don't really have to.
Yeah. I think location has actually become less important. Well, depending on the business, obviously, if you're opening up a brick and mortar store, that's one thing.
Right.
But location has become like really irrelevant in the last
Yeah.
2, 3 years. Like since COVID, like no one cares.
Thank God, because we launched during a
I
pandemic.
know, I know. That was like I tell everyone that was like the one upside of our launch is that like we were a global company immediately
Yeah.
because everyone was on Zoom.
It's like, when did you launch? 14 days to flatten the curve.
Okay, so what do you need to write in your business plan about your product or service offering?
This too is very important. So I would get really tight on what do you offer, how much does it cost, because that's going to directly feed into any kind of forecasting.
I was gonna say we also in the collective that sheet is like gold. The scoping
Yes.
template, which is like basically a pricing template to figure out how to price your services.
Yes.
And I think that's for service based. I don't for product based.
It could be tweaked for products.
Okay, yeah. But anyway, I think that that's super
I actually have a
helpful.
separate sheet within our we have a forecasting document that's also in the collective that would work for
Products,
products very
yeah.
well.
To figure out how much you need to sell and everything. Well, that goes in a second. But what was I going to say for products? Oh, service and offering. I think this is really important because I think entrepreneurs often get caught up here with like services. And I get it because we've been there too, where people are like, what do you do? And you're like, what do you need?
Yeah.
Like you're like, do you have money?
Yeah.
Especially when you start out. So I do think, and just because you put that in like on paper, that doesn't mean that is the only thing that you offer. But I think it's even helpful as a business to figure out what you do and what you don't do, because people will start asking like, oh, can you do this? Can you do this? And it's very
Right.
easy to be like, yeah, sure. And then like, you're like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
You get in this place where you're like, why did we agree to that?
But I also think that's a phase
That's
that
true.
you can't like,
No, you like kind of can't escape.
well, I actually don't think you should escape it. Here's why. Hear me
Okay.
out. Jesse's like, oh, Jesus, here she goes leaning into the pain again. I think it's really important to try things once to help you set your boundaries.
Yeah.
So
I understand that.
if
Yeah,
you have a skill and you're on the fence about offering it,
totally.
I would offer it. Charge whatever you think is fair. Don't worry about it because you're going to feel like you were taken advantage the first time no matter
No
what.
matter what.
Um and then pricing should be a whole other thing that we talk about. But
Honestly, we should do an episode on that.
yeah, we
Yeah,
should.
we'll write that down.
But the point being is I think it's actually very important to go through the experience of offering something, because self-doubt is such a big feeling
Yeah,
when you're owning a business, that we've done this before too, where it's like, gosh, I don't know, I feel like we don't want to work on this part of execution, and we're like, oh, but we're really good at it, maybe we should just do it. And then every time we do that
yeah,
one thing, it's like, why are we doing this?
totally. And
So
then
then
like
finally we stopped doing it.
we stopped doing it and we got to a point where like, okay, what would be worth it is if someone was paying us X amount every month to do it, but
Yeah.
anything less than that is a no.
Yeah.
So
And it became so much easier to say no, because when you're building a business, I don't care how much money you're making, it's really hard to say no.
totally. It's, I mean, yeah, you're especially like getting it all going. It's just like you need momentum and you're like, oh, where,
Right. And
where do I
you're
start?
especially when you're starting and you're collecting testimonials and everything, you're like, gosh, if I say no now, is everything else just going to fall out
Yeah,
from right under me?
totally. Number 5 is probably my favorite because I think it is one of the most overlooked things from small businesses, and that is the sales and marketing plan.
Mm-hmm.
You need a marketing plan. You need to figure out how you're going to get in front of customers.
Yeah.
All your friends saying that you should start a business or you should start doing it is not a marketing plan, and I think that people get confused by that.
Also, you going on Instagram and talking about your business is
No.
also not a marketing plan.
No. And they're like, literally, this is why we built the collective, because we just see so many small businesses that like think like, if you build it, they will come. They will not come. I promise you. I promise you. We've seen this over and over again. You can have the best product in the world. I mean, like, Uber spends like billions of dollars a year trying to get new customers on its
Yeah.
app. Like their whole company is like built in debt because they had to figure out how to get people. Uber is like, none of us can live without Uber at this point.
Yeah.
And they still won't come.
Yeah.
So like, please understand that you need an actual marketing plan.
Yes. Yeah, and then sales, it's ideal to map out some kind of a forecast. What are you selling? How much does it cost? What, you can do it they call it top down or bottoms up, but pick a number. Either it's how much money you want to make or how much you're going to charge, and work your way to the other end of the equation.
Yeah. Next up is financial plan. This is your forecast.
So this is where you're thinking about your startup costs, any revenue projections, profitability. Here, your financial plan, it's really important to understand how much money you want to make, but then also what does it cost you to run the business? So this is where if you're like, I want to make $100,000 a year, but you have $20,000 in expenses, like you're not making $100,000 a year.
Right.
And also as a small business owner, depending on how you're structured, you need to make sure that you're saving for taxes as well.
Yes.
That's such a big mindset shift because, coming from a different full-time job, you've got a paycheck where that's taken out for you.
Right.
And budgeting, I always recommend, just everybody's situation's different, but I always recommend at least 20% to just make sure you're covering your
Yeah, and I will
costs.
also say I think that one of the things I didn't take into account until meeting you, because you literally like count pennies, which is a good thing. Find a business partner that counts pennies. That's my business advice. But I think that
I count dollars, not pennies.
okay. Listen, Jen, it works. I'm making money because of it. Okay, it works. I'm not mad at you. What I would say is, for example, you budgeted into our budget like ongoing training. So like learning,
Yes.
like spending money. And I was kind of like, Jen, we don't need like $500 for that. And it's like, we really did. Like
Yeah.
all of the things, and just different little things, all those memberships, Flowdesk, or MailChimp or whoever you're going to use, and Asana and Slack, whatever you're paying for, and all these little things to run your, like all the like $15, $18, $19 a month
Oh
charges
yeah,
really
Jesse
add
gets real
up.
frustrated with me because I'm like, well, if we sign these people up on Slack, that's $8 a person.
Yeah, but it really is. It
adds up.
It really adds up, especially running a full business. And I think that that is really important to look at yearly and not monthly, because I'm a big like monthly person, and I'm
Yes.
looking at them kind of like in a silo, like, well, it's $18 a month. What's that? And it's like, well, when we really look at our expenses, and we run very lean.
Yeah, and it's still pretty expensive.
Still pretty expensive to run our business. And like we
Yeah.
have no office space, no cars, no no real
We don't have any overhead.
we have no real overhead, and it's still a couple $1,000s a month. Like,
Yeah.
and it's really just like systems, right? And like,
Yeah.
and programs and
No,
stuff.
that's what I sign up for bloggers income reports sometimes. I'm like, how are you actually running your business on, $40 a month in expenses or something? I'm like, that's not accurate.
That's what I mean. I think that people forget, like, oh, that is an included expense. That also includes transportation. Again, like things like that, transportation, like we work at each other's homes, but it's
Right.
still, those things. And, our Colin, who's our marketing assistant, who edits the podcast. Hi, Colin. We pay for her Ubers back and forth and different things. So it's just
Yeah.
like, there are a lot of things that really just start to add up quickly. And I think that a lot of people forget that, with small businesses, or if you want to go to a conference, you want to, and it's nice to have those things built in, because it starts to feel a little bit more like a corporate job, where it's like, okay, I already know that's built in. It's not going to be like a surprise, like, or, we built this in our budget, and at the end of the year, if you don't use it, you get to take home more. But like, if you do,
Or you could work with Jesse and it always disappears.
you sound like my husband. I was telling him the other day, though, I was like, listen, you can bitch all you want, but your net worth has significantly increased since meeting me, so you're welcome, okay?
The only other thing I want to say on costs is actually this template too is in the collective. We have a great template that helps you outline your cost by month and by year, and then it gives you an average monthly cost. So, for example, now that we've been in business for a couple years, Jesse and I set aside an average monthly cost that will then keep enough money in the bank account to ensure when insurance comes up for $1,000.
Insurance, that's a big one everyone forgets.
Yeah. That comes around. Because we formed in the month of March. March is always an extremely high expense month for us. And since we put away a decent sized chunk every month, now when it comes around, it's not as big of a deal.
Right. It's not like, whoa.
Yeah. But those first couple March months, whew, caught me by surprise.
And then last is like your management team or any staff, I think.
Yeah, and this is primarily important if you are pitching your services to someone, you're pitching for investment, then you need to explain who's on the team, because people want to know who they're investing in. If it's just for you, you probably don't need to outline this.
I agree. I think that if you are going to have a team, even if it's a small one, even if it's contractors, I think that I've been surprised at how many times we've needed those bios in different ways. So I do think that it's helpful, whether it's in your plan or not, but to have everyone's bios written out somewhere that you
do
can
bring up a good point.
Pull really quickly,
and
like
photo.
And photos, like headshots, so that you can pull quickly, because there have been different clients and bigger clients, particularly, that if they want like a deck, I mean, a capabilities deck too, also in the collective. Again, we built everything that like we've built, but like a capabilities deck, and you can pull a lot from your business plan to put in your capabilities deck.
Yes.
But yeah, I do think that that has been something that we've
If you get
needed.
confused, you can always book time with us and we'll
Yeah,
explain it.
absolutely. We do business plans. We help
Yeah.
people, and I think that they're really practical. And what I love about our business plans is that they take into account people's lifestyles and like
Yeah,
what
no
they.
one else does that.
No, I mean, I've never heard of that really. You know what I mean? Like they look at it kind of as a business and not about personal. And it's a lot more important to me with most small businesses, but really anyone to like look at lifestyle and like what you actually have to commit to it or want to. And from that, what you want to make with that time and figure out like how that all shakes out.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you have any questions, reach out to us.
Yeah.
And if you haven't picked up on it, you should probably join the collective.
Yeah. We will be opening back up next month for probably a little bit more before Black Friday, but we will share the
Gosh, yeah, a
date
couple
soon.
weeks
I
away.
know, it's crazy. All right, guys, good to talk to you. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.